Hello and welcome to another Manga Spotlight. This is Kigurumi, a series written by Kurokata Kei and illustrated by Watanabe Shizumu. And if that latter name sounds familiar, it's because I just did a Manga Spotlight for one of his series, Dead Account. So for Dead Account, he was the writer and illustrator, but for this, he is just the illustrator. This series came out a decade ago. It came out December 27, 2012. And it only lasted exactly 1 month. So yeah, it ran from December 27th to January 27th. It only has 5 chapters. It got canceled. And it's a real shame because there was a lot of potential here in this series, which is why I decided to do a spotlight for it. I kind of wanted to discuss this series and maybe what could have been. So I will do a brief summary. This is from Manga Dex. The story focuses around Makoto, a student whose talent is making stuffed toys. He starts researching the mysterious disease going around called sudden death syndrome after finding out that his latest creation looks like the mysterious stuffed rabbit rumored to be causing it. And so let's go over the first chapter. So we start off with our secondary main character, Karaki, and Karaki is witnessing the aftermath of a brutal murder. Basically, her entire classroom has been slaughtered except for her and one other girl with an eye patch. And the girl with the eye patch says, bye, Kay. Next time we meet, I'll kill you. And then we cut to the present day, where we see a rise in what's called sudden death syndrome. It's where people are just suddenly dropping dead and dying. So we have our main character. His name is Makoto. And Makoto has this interesting hobby where he makes little stuffed toys. So we see him in the beginning, he's making a little tiny stuffed bear. And this plays a part later on. So it's the whole theme of this has to deal with stuffed animals. In fact, the name Kigurumi, I believe, stands for animal costume or stuffed costume or something like that. Basically, it's about mascots. So mascots, little stuffed toys, huge theme in this series. So we see Makoto and he's building these stuffed toys, and he can make one like almost instantly. Like he's that good, and it's his dream to be able to do this for a living. And he creates this stuffed toy that is kind of like this little creepy, almost looking rabbit, and a character mentions, "Hey, that creature kind of looks like the sudden death syndrome character. Did you use that as a reference?" He's like, "Wait, sudden death syndrome character? What the hell are you talking about?" And basically, she explains that the whole mysterious sudden death incidents, there's like a rumor buzzing on the internet that this stuffed animal has been showing up constantly in eyewitness reports. And the animal looks exactly like the thing that you just created. He's like, "Oh, well, I had no idea. This is just something I came up with on the spot." And so, yeah, he goes and he starts looking through his phone about the wave of sudden deaths. And he sees a news article about the one that happened at Kagenuma Private High School, which is the largest amount of sudden death cases. 23 students died. This is the case that we saw in the very beginning with Karaki. She was the only one that survived. And when they question her, like, what happened, she says that everyone was killed by a stuffed animal. And of course, they wrote her off as suffering from like a hallucination due to shock and stuff, because no one's going to believe that a stuffed animal went around killing the entire classroom. Makoto finished his day at school. He's going home with his sister. She meets up with him first to show that the stuffed animal that she made for him was kind of destroyed. And he's like, "Oh, don't worry, I can create a new one." And she's like, no, I want you to fix this one because this is the first one you ever made for me. So he does, and he decides to treat her to some crepes. When all of a sudden, they're waiting on a crosswalk and time freezes. And Makoto notices this tiny stuffed rabbit that looks exactly like the one that he created earlier. And the rabbit seems to talk to him. It says, "Yo, we meet at last." And he's like, "What the hell?" And he thinks he might be just hallucinating, so he turns to his sister to see if she noticed. And she's frozen. And he looks and he realizes that everybody is frozen. It's like time just completely stopped. Even the rain's not falling down. And the rabbit starts running away, so he chases after it. because he's like, what the hell is going on? Time is freezing. This stuffed rabbit is talking to me. I got to figure out what this is all about. So he chases after the rabbit. Unnoticingly, he's being watched by Karaki, and she's talking to someone on the phone. We later find out that the person she's talking to is Iori. But Iori gives Karaki the message to protect this kid, protect Makoto. So she jumps and she says, I'm warning you. This place is under attack by a stuffed animal. If you don't want to die, run away to safety. And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? And that's when he looks at her and he notices that she's the girl from the high school massacre. And before he can ask her any questions, a giant teddy bear shows up. And I mean giant. And that's when Karaki throws off her cloak, revealing that she's carrying a baseball bat. She says, I will protect you. She has an eye patch. She pulls the eye patch off, revealing that her left eye is actually a zipper. And she unzips her left eye, and fluff pops out. And from that fluff, what looks like a man in a rabbit costume shows up. So this is where the name for the series comes from. So Kigurumi stands for compatible body units, or also it can mean cartoon costume. So basically, like I said before, a mascot. So yeah, what looks like a dude in a rabbit costume comes out of her eyeball and starts attacking the bear with a baseball bat. And it's just beating the crap out of this bear. But eventually the bear is able to swipe the rabbit and impales it on this spiked fence. And the rabbit turns back into fluff and goes back into her eyeball. And she's like, oh crap, like this thing's getting away. And the teddy bear goes and it bites a couple people. And I will say this series is pretty gory. We have one moment where it rips this, like it takes a huge chunk out of this girl, and you just see like her intestines and her limbs flying everywhere. And it looks like the bear is going after his sister when he jumps and tackles her out of the way. And instead of hitting his sister, it hits a couple of other innocent people. And again, no one is reacting to any of this because everyone's frozen in time. And that's when he notices the little rabbit again, the little tiny stuffed rabbit. The one that was talking to him earlier, standing on this lamp, and it's just kind of watching him. And the bear goes to attack Makoto when all of a sudden the rabbit says, hey, open your eyes. Is it possible you've chosen not to die? Your life, take it. And the little tiny rabbit unzips himself and sucks Makoto inside its body. And now all of a sudden Makoto is dressed up as this creepy yet badass looking rabbit. And Makoto starts attacking this bear, and he yanks out all of these like street posts. The bottom of the street posts are kind of cut, so they're like spears. And he starts throwing these street posts and just impaling the crap out of this bear. And eventually he pins it to the wall. He jumps up and he slices the bear in half from the upper jaw up. Kind of like a pen dispenser. He just pins this thing. And as soon as this bear dies, time unfreezes. And everyone's back to normal, except all the people that were killed during this time freeze. They collapse to the floor and they're dead. It's the sudden death syndrome. And eventually Makoto wakes up in Iori's house because after this event he passes out, and Karaki takes him to Iori's house, and Iori explains what's going on. Iori basically created this group. So far the group is just her and Karaki, but they're called the Kagamigahara Bear Busters, aka the KBB. And basically what their job is to kill these bear creatures. So she explains that there's these otherworldly invaders. We call them bears because that's the form that they usually take. They always take the form of bears, no other animals, just bears. And the bears enter our world through zippers from summoners. So Makoto saw one of this earlier when he saw Karaki unzip her eye and the rabbit came out. So basically, they're summoners. The summoners have zippers somewhere on their bodies, not necessarily on their eye. In the later chapter, we see that one character has it on their ear. But the summoner can release one of two things. A summoner can either release a bear, and the bear is to go out and kill humans, which causes the sudden death syndrome. So summoners that summon bears tend to be evil. They basically made pacts with evil entities. And then there are summoners that summon rabbits, which Karaki is one. And Karaki is basically the only one because, again, this series only lasted 5 chapters, so we were never like given a chance to see more of these KBBs and stuff like that. But Makoto is a hybrid of a human and a rabbit summoner. Basically, unlike Karaki, who can summon the rabbits and have the rabbit fight for her, Makoto summons the rabbits and goes into the rabbits, and basically him and the rabbit become one. He's the only one that's ever been able to do this. He's called the Symbiote. And Iori wants him to join her KBB and help fight these bears and find out all these other summoners that are out there and stop them once and for all. And at first, Makoto is like, nah, I don't want to do that. Like, I almost lost my sister today. I almost lost my life. I don't want to be involved in any of this. But then she tells him, it's already too late. You're already involved. The bears know that you're a symbiote. They know that you're special. They're gunning for you. Your family's always going to be in danger unless you join us and help us fight these bears and summoners and stop them. Unless you do that, you're never going to be safe. Your family's never going to be safe. And so Makoto eventually ends up joining this group. And yeah, there's more, but I don't want to spoil it. I think you guys should check it out for yourself. It's only 5 chapters. I'll leave a link in the description below where you can read it. And it's a shame that this series never really got a chance. Like I said, it only lasted for exactly 1 month. It went from December 27, 2012 to January 27, 2013. So it got exactly only 1 month. And of course, the final chapter, you can easily tell that the author knew that it was over. In fact, I would say he probably knew that it was over by the 4th chapter, because the 4th chapter was already building up to chapter 5. And chapter 5 kind of rushes everything to give you a conclusion. I will say that the ending is not that great for 2 reasons. One, it's rushed, obviously. I can't fault the author for that because, I mean, they're trying to wrap up everything in 1 chapter. But also because it leaves everything kind of open-ended. I guess a little bit of spoilers. One of the villains is defeated, but the main villain is not. So, yeah, there's no, like, real closure. So that's kind of a shame. But the artwork is really fantastic. The action scenes are really well drawn. The story and premise is... I really liked it. Of course, the ending is... It sucks. I'll just be blunt. The ending is not that great. But everything else is good. There's so much potential here. The main character is actually, like, pretty intelligent. So, in some of the later chapters, chapter 4, chapter 5, a bear is released at his school. Students are being killed. 3 students don't end up getting frozen during the time freeze. And that's when Karaki explains that, hey, the chances of students not being frozen is very, very, very low. So there's 3 of them that are not frozen along with us. I'm assuming 2 of them are okay, but one of them has to be the summoner. And it's like, these are Makoto's friends. So Makoto doesn't want to believe this at first, but then he's like, okay, like what you're saying makes sense. Who is it? And the way he's able to find out who it is like pretty damn good. Like he kind of Sherlock Holmes this thing. So it's nice to have a main character who is naive or new to how this whole universe is working. Like, he's new to this whole bear situation and rabbits and summoners and sudden death syndrome. But he's also intelligent enough that he knows how to break things down and, like, figure things out. Like, he's not a complete idiot, which is very, very rare in manga. I mean, it seems to be a change now. We're not getting completely stupid characters. But, yeah, in the past, whenever we get a male main character, they're usually come across as kind of dumb or naive, especially in shonens. So, yeah, to get an intelligent main character is pretty nice. He's a relatable character. Like, you understand his actions and stuff. You understand why he refuses a call to action at first. Everything makes sense. The character that helps him, Karaki, she's also a well-written character. Like, she comes across as... She comes across as kind of naive at times, but not in an annoying way, but in a cute, kind of humorous way. So yeah, there aren't any really unlikable characters in this. And then again, just the whole premise is just so weird but interesting. Yeah, I mean, just the fact that you have summoners who have zippers on their bodies. They summon bears that attack people. When they attack, time freezes. Anyone they kill when time freezes, when time unfreezes, those people drop dead. They don't drop dead, like they don't get mutilated. So like if a character gets their head bitten off during a time freeze or gets bisected during a time freeze, when time unfreezes, their head's not gone, their body's not dissected, they're completely whole. They just immediately collapse to the floor dead. So that's why no one is understanding what the hell's going on. Like people aren't just randomly like exploding into gory bits. Instead, people are just dropping dead, which is even more freakier. But yeah, just the fact that there's these giant teddy bears that are going around killing these things, and the only thing stopping them are mascots that look like dudes and rabbits coming out of people's eyeballs. Like, it's just so weird, but like it's original, it's unique. The artwork is great, the characters are good. There's just so much potential here, and it just died. It just wasn't given a chance. It only lasted a month. It was only given it's like 5 chapters, and the 5th one was just to wrap everything up. And it's just such a shame. I always say this, but it always sucks when like you get manga series that decide to do something unique and different, and they just never last. Meanwhile, you get the same cliche isekai that go on for hundreds of chapters. And again, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Nothing against isekais. I like isekais. They're like a isekais are kind of like a guilty pleasure. Even the like super edgelordy or super erotic harem stuff, like I'll read them all. And there have been some good ones. There's just also a lot of cliche ones and just a lot of ones that are just like, we're just here for the fan service. We're just here to titillate our readers and nothing else. And they last forever. Like they get hundreds of chapters. Meanwhile, you get something that tries to be unique and interesting, and it just never lasts. And it's kind of a shame. And yeah, unfortunately, Kigurumi ends up falling into that category. So yeah, there you go. There's Kigurumi. It always kind of breaks my heart a bit when I see a series with potential and it just never really gets the chance to shine. But there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. And if you got any series that you would recommend I check out, maybe something similar to this. Not similar as in like story or premise or anything, but similar in that it had so much potential, but it just wasn't really given the chance. Like I would love to find more stuff like that and just kind of spotlight them. But yeah, there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care. Have a good one. Later.